Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea. What if we could reimagine our entire relationship with food? And what if we started not on the farm, but right here, on the dinner plate? We're going to explore how cuisine itself could become this powerful tool for designing healthier, more resilient landscapes.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote, because it really gets to the heart of the matter. For thousands of years, we've thought of the plow as this incredible symbol of civilization, right? But what if it's actually an instrument of destruction? The argument here is that it literally shatters the complex, living web in the soil, leaving it totally exposed and vulnerable.
And that leaves us with a massive, kind of scary question, doesn't it? If the plow, the very foundation of our food system, is fundamentally flawed, what's the alternative? How in the world do we feed billions of people without wrecking the planet? That's the challenge we're tackling. To really understand the solution, first we have to get a handle on how we got here. You see, the modern industrial plate, what we expect to find in our grocery stores, has become a kind of blueprint for a very specific and very damaging type of agriculture.
Wow. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This quote it's so honest, it's brutal. It pulls back the curtain on a system that has completely severed the connection between our food and what it tastes like. Industrial tomatoes are bred for durability, not for deliciousness. They're picked green, gassed to turn red, all for a long shelf life. The goal is profit. Taste, well, it doesn't even enter the picture.
430,000 gallons. What is that? That is the amount of manure produced by a single industrial dairy farm every single day. It's a staggering amount of waste that pollutes our waterways and releases huge quantities of methane. This isn't really farming anymore, is it? It's waste management on an epic and failing scale.
And look, the point is, this isn't just about tomatoes or dairy. The whole system's relentless demand for cheapness creates what you could call a race to the bottom. It forces berry growers to pump unsustainable amounts of groundwater, and it creates conditions where farm workers are paid poverty-level wages. That cheap food on our plate, it carries enormous hidden costs for our environment and for society.
But what if we could flip that entire dynamic on its head? This brings us to the pivot point of our whole discussion, a really radical reversal in thinking, where the menu itself becomes an ecological tool.
This is the core question, right here. Instead of farmers growing these huge single-crop fields of whatever the market demands, perfect tomatoes, cheap corn, what if chefs and eaters started creating demand for what a healthy, diverse landscape naturally wants to produce?
This idea is often called the third plate philosophy. It's a culinary vision that completely reverses the flow of information. It says that our plates shouldn't just be about a single-star ingredient like a big steak or a piece of fish, but should instead be this delicious reflection of an entire, functioning ecosystem.
So what does a farm that's designed by this kind of menu actually look like? Well, it looks a whole lot more like a natural ecosystem. And it all starts from the ground up.
And it really all begins with the soil. This description here is just beautiful. It paints this picture of the incredible life right beneath our feet. So instead of sterile dirt, an ecosystem farm is built on this seething stew of bacteria and fungi and worms, all working together to create natural fertility.
The strategies to build this kind of soil health, they all mimic nature. So instead of one single crop, you get polycultures, where different plants grow together and support each other. You have multiple layers, from herbs on the ground to fruit trees above. You use perennials, which are plants whose deep roots hold the soil together year after year, so you don't need to do all that destructive tilling. And so importantly, you integrate animals to complete the whole cycle.
What you get from all this complexity is resilience. This metaphor from Guy's Garden is just perfect. In a monoculture, when a pest or a disease hits, the entire system can collapse. But in this interconnected web, if you snip one thread, the whole net stays strong. It has its own built-in insurance policy. A critical part of that resilience comes from one of nature's most important rules. There is no such thing as waste. Everything is a resource for something else.
This comparison really says it all. The industrial model is linear. It takes in inputs like chemicals, it processes them, and it spits out two things, a product and a bunch of pollution. But the ecosystem farm? It's circular. Its inputs are sunlight and stuff from the farm itself. Its systems are integrated, and its outputs are nutrient-dense food and more fertility. It doesn't deplete value, it creates it.
Here's how that loop actually works in practice. Livestock aren't a problem. They're a key part of the solution. Instead of being fed imported corn, they eat cover crops or vegetable scraps. Their manure isn't pollution. It's a resource that gets composted to feed that incredible web of life in the soil. And that healthy soil, in turn, produces amazing food. Each part of the system just supports all the others.
This agricultural shift is incredible, but it cannot happen in a vacuum. It requires a pretty profound cultural shift in how we, the eaters, think about food.
A passive consumer is really the engine of the industrial system. They demand perfect, uniform produce that's available all year and, above all, is cheap. An engaged eater, though, is a participant. They appreciate the variety that an ecosystem produces, they embrace seasonality, and they value the story of where their food comes from and how it was grown.
Ultimately, this shift moves beyond just individual choices and towards a larger, much more powerful idea: food sovereignty. This is the collective right for communities to define their own food systems, to have access to healthy food that's grown in a way that respects both the culture and the ecology of a place. It reframes all of this as a fundamental human right.
So the next time you sit down for a meal, ask yourself this question. Is it telling a story of depletion, of uniformity, of extraction? Or could it tell a different story, one of diversity, resilience, and regeneration? Because the incredible truth is, we have the power to help write that new story, one delicious plate at a time.